Welcome back to the channel, guys. You're joining Jason Pizzino on the Crypto Byte channel. Thanks again for joining. As always, you know where the subscribe button is, just over there underneath the video. Remember to hit the like as well. It always helps out all the videos. I will get on with today's video, and we're just going to jump over to the cryptocurrency market capitalizations quickly, as we do with the beginning of every video, just keeping a track of the market cap. 472 billion we're at. Yesterday's video was sitting around 450 billion, so we're up a little today. And we can see that Bitcoin's been up a little, but that has pushed through to the rest of the market. See, everything else is up just over that 2%, which Bitcoin is up in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin's up 2.6. So as long as it's above the 2.6, then that particular crypto has had a gain against Bitcoin itself, you know, versus its own Bitcoin value. So that gives even more value to the overall market. Ripple's had a little stellar run, 18% there in the last 24 hours. And Stellar, Monero's up. Monero's had a pretty good week overall. It's actually had a very good run, and I'll get into that in the in today's video, which is just over here. It's had a good run since the bottom. So we're looking at the article from Cointelegraph, and let's just read through it. So we've got equity markets versus cryptocurrency markets. I've also noticed that this has become quite popular since the introduction of futures, and even more so since the crash. And also, you know, the equity markets had their crash just a few weeks ago where they fell about 10%. But you've got to remember that they are very highly leveraged. You know, you can get 100 to 1, 500 to 1 in some cases. So even just a couple of percent move, multiply that by 100. Like those sorts of things are massive. It's not something like, oh, you know, crypto's up 100% and they're not. They are leveraging the shit out of it. And once that leverage comes into crypto, you will probably have to be leveraging up if you're going to get any of those sorts of gains. And if you keep just buying the whole token, it'd be like buying a whole stock. And if a stock only moves 10% in a few months, in a year or something, that's what you'll make on your complete purchase. But if you want to multiply that gain, then that's what you've got to look at. So really comparing it and saying one's better than the other because of X isn't exactly right. But it is pretty cool that just the average Joe, you know, you can get in, buy a Monero, buy a Dash or anything, a few $100, and they can double, as we'll see in today's video. And you know, you can get those gains rather than having to play it risky on the equity markets. Obviously, there is risk involved in crypto as well. I'm not saying that there is zero, but in the equity markets, if you're going to look for 100% gains, like, you've got to have your stop pretty close to the market in case you're wrong and it goes the other way against you, because you can lose a lot of money. So we're just looking at the global equity markets in today's video, and then it's just showing that the Japanese market has dropped hard, and then we've got a little bit of technical analysis here showing that it's bounced. So I've just enlarged that. We fell in February, and then we've bounced to 50% and it's fallen again. If this chart had some volume, that would be a very nice thing to see. It could keep going. You know, we might test some of the highs back in mid last year. That could be a good place for it to hold out and then begin its accumulation before it moves again. I don't think these markets are over yet. I don't think this is the bear market that everyone's talking about. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. If that's the case, and we're still going up with the other equities around the world, I think crypto will continue to move up too. You know, it's only, if you really look at it, it's kind of like a lot of mum and dad investors that, like us, we all can put money into these things quite easily, relatively speaking. When we're talking about institutional money, you know, there's not really any onboarding ramps for institutional money to get those billions of dollars into. If they chuck $1 billion in, like, that just destroys the market. It just goes bananas in the up direction, and to the positive side, you know, to the up. And they're not going to be able to do that. Their parameters won't allow them to. They're not going to be able to throw $1 billion in and just watch it go 1000x, which is basically just their money. They just keep buying at higher and higher prices. So it's a matter of waiting for those avenues to come into play for the institutional money to get into crypto. And as I was saying, which is the point I'm making, it's a lot of, you know, we do have venture capital and all that sort of stuff in crypto, but it is a lot of mum and dad investors. You know, I don't really want to say dumb money because not all of it's dumb. We just don't have the restrictions like the institutional money does. So we can go into the market, and I guess a lot of people are looking for strength. You know, they sort of trade on emotion, and if they're feeling a bit negative about the equity markets, they're probably going to feel negative about all the markets in general. They don't really just switch straight over to crypto and say, yeah, crypto's going to the moon because everything else is falling. I don't see that happening just yet. I think it takes a little bit longer than 12 months of to change a society's psychology, which has been ingrained over hundreds of years. Like, I think that's kind of naive to think that over the course of 12 months, because we've seen crypto grow, that everyone's just going to think crypto is the safe haven rather than, like, traditionally speaking, metals, or pretty much pulling it out into cash, which is what people do when Bitcoin crashes. You know, people throw it into Tether. You'll see Tether increase. So it's the writing's there for you. You know, the information is there. Moving down to cryptocurrencies, watching for relative strength, we can see that many of these are up. Year to date, not so, but in the last week, we can see Monero is the big winner there, 23%, IOTA's up, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash has got 1% there, and then Dash and Ripple are down overall. This article is, I think, over 24 hours old. Where are we at? 6 hours ago. So maybe the Ripple gain isn't in there exactly. You know, Ripple's is up at 10% more than what it's showing here. But overall, the main point is Monero, and on a technical basis, I think we've got a chart down here, it's looking very healthy. Check this out. Monero, A at the bottom, B, C, D. Probably look for a pullback in an E somewhere around, probably where it's sitting now, actually, around that 350 mark, if it continues on this pattern to 450, which is a double top with those tops that just didn't quite make the all-time high. That's a very nice pattern to see there. It fell, and then I would probably come back to that D point. I would have my money on it that it's going to that point. It's a $100 move. What's that on 350? Probably close to 30% from where it is now. So Monero is looking very healthy from that bottom at 150. Man, if you got in at that point, that would be very nice sitting. So you're up over 50%. I think this article says it's around 150%. There you go, 149.2%, and it's up $223. So Monero is looking very solid. In perspective against the rest of the cryptos, Monero is looking good, and this article also mentions Dash, but it's not looking as strong. It might have a little bit more time. I think it's got some room to go to the upside from here. It hasn't fallen, you know, like it's seen a bounce. It's come back to test its trend line there. It's connected to the lows. You can see there the blue line running diagonally from bottom left to top right. That blue line there, it's just sitting on that now. Maybe it will break below that for a little bit, but I think it's got some room to move up. It's not sitting as high as Monero. The pattern's not as strong, but Dash is definitely not a weak coin overall, and I think that does have some good potential. As you can see there in the bottom section, in the little purple area where it's got the RSI, that's your relative strength indicator, that you can see there is an uptrend. It's not a bullish divergence, because we would like to see the current price action go below the previous low, but also see that relative strength indicator moving up. So it's not a bullish divergence, but there could be some strength here in Dash. If I was to pick between the two, I'm looking at Monero against Dash in these two comparisons, comparatively speaking. Let's get those words out. So that's me there. Monero's looking good. It has been looking good for some time. It is the leading, it says the leading crypto sector high, but it's the leading privacy coin. And it's talked about a lot. You know, it's easy to forget as well that Monero is the main, probably one of the main, with Bitcoin, one of the main cryptocurrencies used on the dark web. And this is where all of these transactions started, with the dark web, or the main use. You know, we've got illegal activity, gambling, prostitution, those sorts of things. If all this dies out, these are going to be the main coins that are going to continue to be used. So that is where it sits in my head. I like the look of Monero. That is up to you. If you also like the look of that, if you've got some in your bags, let us know down below why you jumped into Monero. Is it recently you jumped in? Is it previously? If it is, what is the main driving factor that makes you love Monero? Leave comments down below. I will see you at the next video. You know where to hit me in the description. We've got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to hit subscribe and the like button, and I'll check you out the next video. Thanks again for joining. Jason Pizzino, me, on Crypto Byte. See you next time.